Good morning. I'm Al Fitzpayne, the Executive Director of the Aspen Institute Future of Work Initiative. Honored to kick off the talent track with an overview of how work is changing today and what that means for our economy. U.S. cities, as Eric mentioned, are experiencing rapid changes and are at the forefront of innovation. And for these reasons, our ability to meet our economic challenges truly depends upon our city's success. In the 21st century, our ability to create jobs and build companies will be driven by the education and skills of our workforce. And given this necessity, it is clear that our country, and a question for this group, our cities are underinvesting in our workers. As you can see from this slide, compared to other OECD countries, the US invests very little in workforce development. We spend about $12 billion per year. And only Japan, the UK, and Australia invest less. And if you look at the federal investments in training versus investments in education, you can see that our post-secondary education is the dominant strategy for how the US is investing in talent development today. Federal government spends over $180 billion per year on education, compared to, as I mentioned, only $12 billion on workforce training or investments in talent. And unfortunately, as the next slide shows, employers have also been investing less in workforce training. The lack of public and private sector investment in our workers comes at the same time that we're facing major challenges from advancing technologies and a changing workforce. Technology, as this room knows well, has a long history of changing, though not necessarily eliminating work. Computers, smartphones are good examples of that. But new breakthroughs in automation and artificial intelligence will continue to change the activities of workers and what they're asked to perform in their existing jobs. Just to give an example, surgical robots are changing the way that surgeons operate, but not eliminating their jobs. But the scale and the pace of this change could be dramatic. And a recent McKinsey report estimated that about 60% of occupations in 60% of occupations, at least 1/3 of the activities could be automated just in the next 12 years. And while I don't subscribe to the theory that there will be a robot apocalypse, automation will eliminate jobs, requiring workers to switch occupations or industries. The most vulnerable jobs, as you may have read, are characterized by repetitive, predictable activities: operating machinery, preparing fast food, collecting and processing data, many of the jobs that we see on a daily basis as we interact in our lives. And the impact of this displacement also could be significant. It's estimated that up to 33% of workers may need to transition to entirely new occupations or industries, again, in the next 10 years. Not surprisingly, Americans are seeing these developments and feeling very uncertain about what the future will hold. More than half of the respondents in a recent survey reported that they're not very confident that their job will exist in 20 years. So what can we do to address the insecurity that Americans are feeling in response to the changing nature of work and the dynamic changes that we're seeing in our cities? And it's clear that if you want to be a lifelong employee and take advantage of all these opportunities that are here in a city like Denver, you have to be a lifelong learner. Workers will need to update and learn new skills over the course of their careers. And while there are many good ideas, I'll quickly highlight two. First, we believe we need to create lifelong learning and training accounts. Workers could use these portable accounts throughout their careers to help pay for the education and training necessary to modernize and update their skills. Second, we need to think about changes to our tax code and developing a credit that rewards companies for investing in their workers, especially low and moderate income workers. Right now, companies receive tax breaks for research and development investments, but there's really nothing equivalent for investments in their workers. Like automation and the challenges we face from automation, we have another challenge from the trend about how the structure of work is changing. Not only can one expect to work for multiple employers over their career and possibly work for multiple employers at the exact same time, many will work independently, not work for a traditional employer. 1 in 10 Americans, or about 15 million people, now participate in alternative and non-traditional work arrangements. Think about your Uber driver as one example. That number now exceeds the number of workers we have in the manufacturing industry in the United States of America today. And if you include the number of workers who supplement their income through independent work, the share of people that engage in independent work, not working for a traditional employer, doubles. And while independent work can provide flexibility, the lack of employer-provided benefits increases the economic insecurity that these workers face. For example, as the slide shows, only 40% of gig workers have access to health care, compared to about 82% for full-time employees. 16% of gig workers participate in retirement plans, compared to only half of full-time employees. Policymakers are beginning to work on legislation to create portable benefit systems that allow independent workers to earn benefits and take them from job to job. These initiatives are hopefully the beginning of a broader effort, and hopefully maybe one will come to Denver and Colorado to rebuild the social contract to meet the challenges of the 21st century economy. And again, the reason I think it's important is if you can structure work so that it's beneficial to workers who are working independently, you're going to continue to attract those types of workers to these types of cities. In conclusion, nobody has a crystal ball on what the future will bring. But as the nature of work changes, investments in our workforce, investments in talent, and new ideas to help independent workers will become more important. Cities, in particular, have an incredible opportunity, in Denver leading this, to serve as innovation hubs in addressing these challenges. And today you're going to hear from experts on the importance of talent for the future of cities and how cities are working to address some of these challenges. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about these topics in today's Spark Talks with Christy Reardon from the Flatiron School, Jill Recke with the National Center for Women and Information Technology, Matthew Bailey with the Smart Cities Alliance, and joining us from Chicago, George Burciaga, just told me how to pronounce that, thank you, from Ignite Consulting. So again, thanks for the invitation. It's great to be here. I look forward to listening to the rest of the conversation.